The Men's World Championship Qualification Tournament for 2016 will be hosted in Belize, and the national channel on Central TV and Internet will be bringing all the action starting September 24th to the 30th at the St. Catharines Auditorium. This will be a historic event in Belize, so it will be Belize, Panama, Nicaragua, Honduras, El Salvador, Guatemala, and Dominican Republic will participate in this 7-day tournament, 3 matches per day to determine the 2 qualifying teams to be going to the continental round. So it is the male national qualifiers only on TNC 10 and 132-10 in high definition. Tune in.
Greatest heist in Belizean history. 550 million to one man, Michael Ashton. 198 million in interest alone. Millions in legal fees. BTL wrecked. The raiding of Central Bank, and now the raiding of Social Security Board. Years wasted in courts. This is the greatest heist in the history of Belize. The UDP has been incompetent in dealing with the BTL issue, and the UDP is incompetent to run Belize.
Any United Democratic Party government that I lead will never be engaged in corruption. As soon as it rears its ugly head, I personally will cut it off. And I will tell you about a sharp or special machine to make my 2 sides the car. Every time it spring up, right up our top of it.
But in the UDP, corruption has reared its ugly head again and again and again. In the audit report, there are a long lists of UDP ministers who interfered in the nationality process, including Senior Minister Erwin Contreras, Pablo Marin, John Saldivar, Rene Montero, Manuel Heredia Jr., and Gaspar Vega. The audit reveals that ministers of government recommended and requested that individuals get visas, and points out that that intervention is illegal. Then there were ministers who signed nationalities for persons who did not qualify, including Elvin Penner, John Saldivar, and even Mr. Clean, Godwin Hulse. Pages and pages and pages chronicling UDP corruption.
Of course there's corruption in government. There has always been corruption in government. There will always be corruption in government.
No more UDP corruption. The time is now. Stand strong, Belize.
Dean Barrow and Godwin Hulse want to cover up the corruption and hustling by UDP ministers, which was revealed in the audit reports. They want to hide the truth, but the people have spoken. They are demanding a Senate inquiry into the UDP corruption in immigration. Even the UDP mayor of Belize City wants the truth.
I have watched the issue, the discussions going across the floor in terms of the dialogue, and I support a Senate inquiry. I think that the Senate has the constitutional mandate in relation to making inquiries of this nature. I think that the Senate would be a more well-positioned and objective body, having representation from the social partners and a stronger voice from the opposition. I don't see how a joint committee where you have persons who are themselves named in the report itself who could give it the kind of credibility.
Did you hear that, Dean Barrow? The UDP cannot investigate the UDP. We demand a Senate inquiry. Stand strong, Belize. Mr. Barrow has said that the government has no money for hardworking teachers and public officers. But Mr. Barrow had money for his son Anwar, hundreds of thousands of dollars in salaries and perks at BTL. Mr. Barrow had money to pay millions in legal fees to certain select attorneys. Mr. Barrow had money to pay $557 million for a washed-up phone company worth only $100 million. Mr. Barrow has money to pay John Saldivar's sister a CEO's salary with allowances, perks and benefits to sit at home doing nothing since May 2015. Mr. Barrow has money to buy a brand new fancy SUV for his disgraceful Deputy Prime Minister, but none for teachers and public officers. Under Mr. Barrow, it is UDP first and Belizeans last. It is time for you to go. Rally behind our teachers. Stand strong, Belize.
Today we are standing up as one people. The message is that the People's United Party is saying enough is enough. Basta, enough. We tired of the hard times. We tired of the corruption. We tired of the nepotism. We tired of the arrogance. And we tired of the UDP. We are standing up because we are tired of the corrupt UDP ministers, ladies and gentlemen. We are tired today and we are standing up because we are saying we are not afraid of you, the Barrow and the UDP. PUP! PUP!
Mr. Barrow does not want to hear that his ministers are corrupt. 55,000 passports issued in 2 years. The Auditor General says ministers broke the law. Even Mr. Barrow and his wife are named in the audit report. And when the people of Belize demand answers, this is what the UDP does. They use the police to muzzle the people. They use the police to abuse and muzzle the media.
I am feeling what the poor, oppressed people of this country face every day. The south side, Cayo south side too. Toledo. They can't get the information when the goddamn thief to give a passport to people left and right.
The UDP does not want to hear the truth. This was all planned out, that they did not want us to talk about the audit report, the audit general report, because then we know the level of corruption is from the highest levels of the UDP all the way to the bottom, to the drivers.
This will not go away, Mr. Barrow. The time is now. Stand up, Belize.
Mr. Barrow has said that the government has no money for hardworking teachers and public officers. But Mr. Barrow had money for his son Anwar, hundreds of thousands of dollars in salaries and perks at BTL. Mr. Barrow had money to pay millions of fees to certain select attorneys. Mr. Barrow had money to pay $557 million for a washed-up phone company worth only $100 million. Mr. Barrow has money to pay John Saldivar's sister a CEO's salary with allowances, perks and benefits to sit at home doing nothing since May 2015. Mr. Barrow has money to buy a brand new fancy SUV for his disgraceful Deputy Prime Minister, but none for teachers and public officers. Under Mr. Barrow, it is UDP first and Belizeans last. It is time for you to go. Rally behind our teachers. Stand strong, Belize.
Have you heard about the Expo Colombia in Belize? If not, you have no more time to waste. Limited time only. Bring along the whole familia. Yes, your family. We have it all for everybody. Jewelry, watches, technology, ideology, body reproduction, tools and home appliances. We open through Mondays to Saturdays from 10 a.m. to 9 p.m. and on Sundays from 1 p.m. to 9 p.m. You can find us on New City.
In the first quarter of 2016, the economy contracted by 2%. In the second quarter of 2016, the economy contracted by 1.6%.
When we take into account the first 6 months, the economy has had also a negative, or as we are seeing here, basically, it's decreasing substantially by about $14 million.
Mr. Barrow and the UDP squandered you to go.
Our to crash their families.